Okay, guys, a very warm welcome to my lesson for today, where we are going to be looking at your mathematics. So this topic that we're going to be doing today, it might be something completely new. This is part of our studying ahead and making sure that by the time you're supposed to be doing what we're going to be doing in today's lesson, at least you've got an idea of what to expect. So today's lesson, I'm going to limit it to these three things, and the name of this topic is called Analytical Geometry. Anyone who has heard of this topic before, or is it your first time? So we're going to be talking about distance formula, remember, distance and length in math and physics, it refers to the same thing. We are also going to be talking about the gradient formula. The other word for gradient is the slope. Number 3, we are going to be talking about the midpoint formula. Midpoint, that word midpoint, you should just remember middle. It refers to a point which is in the middle of 2 points. So it's fine. I did ask a question, but I haven't got a response. So that's why I'm saying it's fine. I will continue on my side to just give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about. And then from there, I will come back to that question. So guys, it is 3 main formulas that we are going to be talking about. The one for the distance, this is how it looks like. The distance formula is equals to square root of y2 minus y1 you square plus x2 minus x1 you close you square. This is the formula for calculating the distance. I will give an example on that one before we move on to another type of a formula. Maybe let me just include the next formula. I will give example on a new page. So gradient in mathematics is represented by a small letter m, which means change in y. This is that word called delta in physics, over change in x. The word change simply means, since we are saying change in y, it means it's y2 minus y1 over, since it is changing x, it means x2 over x1. So when you talk about the x1, x2, y2, y1, we're just referring to 2 points, point number 1 and point number 2. That's what the 1 represents and the 2 represents. Then when it comes to the middle point, we have the x value of the middle point, which will be equals to x of point number 1. You just add it with x of the second point. You divide that by 2. That's how you get the x value. Even for the y value of the middle point, you just take y value of the first point, you plus it with y value of the second point, and then you just divide it by 2. That would calculate the x and y middle points between the 2 points. So now let's do some examples. An example would be if you are having that line and they say it has point A and point B. Let's say they are saying point A, the coordinates of point A, it is equals to, maybe let's say 2 and 2. And then the coordinates of point B, we can maybe say 6 and 5. So if the question wants you to calculate the distance, all that you need to do is to pull out the distance formula, which says y2 minus y1. It doesn't matter if you start with x and say x2 minus x1. You just need to remember to close and square it. And then after you will have your y2 minus y1, you just need to remember to close and then you square it. So you will need to choose between those 2 points. Which one will be your x1, y1, x2, y2? I always follow the order of the alphabetical letters. So A comes first. That means this will be my x1, this will be my y1. And then this will be my x2, y2. All that you need to do, honorable members, is just to substitute in the formula. And then let's see. Our x2, it's going to be 6. We will minus x1, which is 2. You squared plus our y2 is 5. We will need to minus our y1, which is that. Then all that you need to do is just to simplify, because this minus that, it gives you a 4. It's like we have 4 squared, that you must plus it with that, minus that is 3. It's like we have 3 squared. And then what is a 4 squared? That is 16 plus 3 squared, that is 9. You end up having 16 plus 9, which is 25. Then it means the distance is square root of 25, which is 5. So in physical sciences and mathematics, you just need to remember that distance and length, it may be referring to one and the same thing. That is the formula for you to use to calculate the distance or the length. Maybe before I go far, let me check if you guys have got any questions for me. So let's see, guys. Do you have any questions for me up to this point? And Drew, at least, and Chanel. Guys, any questions for me up to this point?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. No,
Is it what I've done makes sense? And it's fine. I will continue. And I'm just hoping that it is going to save. Okay. And then I want to now discuss the gradient. Number 2, let's now talk more about the gradient. So let us say, as an example, we have that line there. And then they are saying, maybe let's say we have point C having the coordinates, maybe let us say 3 and 4. And then we've got point D there having, let us say 5. And then let us say 8. I'm just giving an example there. Okay, so they want us to calculate the gradient. So you will just say gradient is the same as small letter m, which is equals to y2 minus y1 that you divided by x2 minus x1. This is the formula to calculate the gradient. So now in calculating the gradient, what will be our x1, y1? With a pencil, you can just say this is going to be my x1, y1, and x2, y2. So now you just need to substitute. So you have your 8 where you minus your y over x2 being 5 minus your x1 being 3. 8 minus 4, it is 4 over 5 minus 3, that is 2, which is equal, that divided by that, it is 2. Then this is the end of it. This is therefore the end of it. That means the gradient for that line is like the slope for that line is 2. That is the slope. Okay, so now let me check. Guys, did that make sense? Did you all understand what I've done on that one? Any questions from your side, or is everything okay? Guys, did you see how we calculate the gradient of a line?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then it's fine. Okay, so now and let's see. So now I want us to discuss calculation related to the midpoint. Remember, the word mid simply refers to middle point. So that means the midpoint will refer to a point which is in the middle, which means, for example, there must be a line, maybe something of that nature. Maybe there we have a point R having the coordinates, let's say -4 and 4. Okay, RS there being point S, having the coordinates, let's say X maybe being 2, and then Y being negative, let's say -2. So we said when it comes to the formula to calculate the middle point, just be aware that when you talk about the middle point, we are just talking about a point somewhere there. As long as it's a point in between or right in the middle of those 2 points or in the middle of that line. So we will definitely calculate the x value and the y value, because what they wanted us to calculate, it is the coordinates of the middle point. And the only way to calculate or to represent the coordinates is in that format. Every time when the question wants you to write, either write, calculate, or determine the coordinates, just know that your final answer should be represented in that format. The formula says x value of the middle point is, you take x of the first point, you plus it with x of the second point, you just divide it by 2. It is as simple as that. The y middle point equals y of the first point, you plus it with y of the second point, you divide it by 2. Which one is going to be your first point? Alphabetically, R comes first, then you can make that your x1, y1, and that your x2, and then that your y2. So, okay, so that means always if what you are substituting is a negative value, put it inside the brackets. That includes when you're calculating the distance and the gradient. I did not give you a coordinate which had negative on purpose, because I'm going to give you a problem that you will need to work on, where I'm going to give you guys the negative coordinates. So if you work that numerator, trust me, you end up having -4 plus 2, which is -2. divided by 2, which is equals to -1, that over that. And then here when you substitute, you have your 4 minus, always when you substitute a negative value, make sure you put it inside the brackets. Then you have that and that, it makes it positive, so it's like you have a 4 plus 2, which is 6 over 2, and that ends up being what? 3. So the coordinates can only be represented like that. So that means these are the coordinates of the middle point, -1 and +3. Again, before I give you guys something to work on, do you guys have any questions for me on that one?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No questions, okay. Then it's fine. For me, I've got questions for you, honorable members. I'm going to write down the easiest of what you might expect in a test or an exam, where they won't bring it to you just like I did, but they will draw something on a Cartesian plane. A Cartesian plane is something that has the x and the y axis, and that where they intersect being the origin. Okay, so let's say we've got a point there, and then I will have another point there, and then I will have another point there. So I will do that. I will also do that. And then I will also do that. No. And no, because I want it to be a straight line. Man. I want it to be a straight line. Yes. Okay. I will call this one point A, and I will give you the coordinates of, let's say we have maybe 1 there, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I will say that point X is 4, and then as for y, maybe let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I will also say that point is 4, and then what am I going to do? Okay, maybe this one, let me call it B, and then I will say, let's say it's -1, -2, -3. Okay, let's -4. Okay, it's fine. We'll say we have -4 there. And then that other pole, -1, maybe we'll just say it's -1. And then let's see that there being point C, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe let's make it 5 there. And this one, well, -1, -2, -3, -4. We'll just make it -4. And then when the question comes, they will say calculate the following. Number 1, let's make it the distance of ABC 2. I will make it and say say the gradient of AC. Oh, no, yes, AC. And then number 3, I will say midpoint of A, B. Yes. Yes. So on this one, as soon as you are done, take a photo, you submit by sending to me via WhatsApp inbox. I want to see how you've calculated it and what you get, so that I can be able to correct you live, so that you will know what type of mistakes you can possibly make, and I will also see what you guys possibly may struggle with. Did you guys get my question? Is everything clear there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is it everyone who was able to hear what I wanted you guys to do?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And it's fine. It's fine. And okay, you can now start working on it. I'm just going to mute myself. Make sure to take a screenshot just in case if I'm disconnected or my screen disappears, at least you have it. But as soon as you are done, I need that information via a WhatsApp inbox, and then I will check it, check. And then Okay, I did receive submissions. I'm just checking here. Let's see. This one said, you see, there's one who did square root of that as the formula, and the next step they substitute, but they no longer do the square root, which is already wrong. So that means when you do, or when you calculate the distance using the distance formula, just make sure to write the formula on your next step. You continue to write that square root. Can you see what I've done there? I firstly wrote the distance formula. Next step, still square root, and then you just substitute, and then you work it out like that. So someone wrote the distance formula. Next step, they no longer write the square root, they just substitute. That is wrong. Okay, let's now check this one. Okay, this one wrote the formula, but their square root is halfway. Just make sure that your square root is not halfway. You don't do it that way. It has to be all the way up until that, so that it's clear that everything is inside the square root. Okay, the distance formula. Okay. When it comes to the gradient, it's always best to make sure that you put it inside the brackets. Just don't forget that. And again, when you calculate the distance formula, maybe let me use this space to write your mistakes. So when you write the midpoint formula, you don't say xm equals x1 plus x2, and then you just say 2. It's wrong to do it that way. It's mathematically wrong. You need to do the over. It's like when your final answer is 1 over 2 and you just write 1, 2. This is not 1 over 2, but you don't know what that is. Unless you do that, then we know it's 1 over 2. So let me check. Yeah, every time when I give this feedback, you just know yourself. Okay, let's see this one. And they've done that. Okay, again, when it comes to the distance formula, I'm seeing the second one who gets square root of 90. So under this topic, don't write it as a decimal. Rather, punch square root of that and check if it gives you maybe something, a square root of something. Rather, leave it in that format, but never as a decimal. And then the square root formula is correct substitution, that and that. Okay, 0, that and that. Again, if you get, let's say, y of your middle point, if you get it to be 3 over 2, you can just leave it as that in case if when you punch it, it continues to be that on your calculator. Avoid writing it as a decimal. If you write it as a decimal, you will still get maximum marks as long as you've shown that step, but this step not necessary. Okay, let me check another one. Is this the second submission? Okay, this one they did. Okay, I see this one used the formula for the gradient where they say m, and then they use that one. I would advise you not to use that one because sometimes if they give you the middle point and they want you to find the other point, many of you guys get confused as to which formula to use. For example, if they say this is a line, maybe they give the coordinates there, let's say 2 and 2. And then if they give you that middle point and they say the middle point, let's say it's 4 and 4, and they want you to find point C. If you are used to writing this as your midpoint formula, you will get confused as to how to use that middle point formula to get point C. You will see that when we do some more complicated stuff, probably on our next lesson. But for now, okay, then let's see. The Monyakis, yes, no, it's fine. How you've done it is okay. You can use your pencil just for your noting to say this. I will make it my x1, x2, and y1, y2. But when answering, then it has to be in a pen. And okay, number one, we've got the distance, which is equal to that. That is the formula. And then you've got that. Okay, looks like that first one is represented correctly. And then yes, on that number two, make sure whatever that you get, you put it inside the brackets. And then you have that, and that looks correct. And then we are having that being your y2 over that 0, and then that being that over that. Okay, this one looks 100%. Okay, last submission there. And having that. Okay, you just need to be very careful of something. Always use your calculator. Always use your calculator. Check this thing. Someone had their that, and what they did was that this thing is the same as -9, and then they end up having -9, and then everything else going down is wrong. Punch this on your calculator, you will see it won't give you negative, it will give you positive. It's because this squared, it means 2 of exactly the same thing. So it's like you're having -3 times -3. That's why it gives you +9 and not -9. Be careful of such, because if you don't punch that on your calculator, you will get the wrong answers. It looks like it's something that one just did it using their mind. Let's see, between those 2 points. Remember to assign points being x1, x2. You reassign every time when you start with new 2 points. You reassign when you start, every time when you start with new 2 points. So, okay. Very quickly, let me do this one of calculating the distance so that you will see how you should substitute. This one for calculating the distance, we know what the formula is, all of us. I'm just going to submit, not substitute. Our x2 is the distance of BC. So that means we look at B and C. So I'll start with x2 being 5 minus x1. Inside the brackets, it will be by -4. Then you close, you do that. Your y2, it will be -4. And then you minus y1 being -1. Close again. And then you say squared. The answer for this one, let me punch it. So you must have square root inside the brackets 5, and then that, and that, and then you close, you square all of that, you must plus, and then what are you having there? After plusing, you have negative that minus negative that. Yes, this is what I'm getting. So you end up getting 3 square root of 10 for that first question. We might not have substituted the same way because maybe the other one can decide to use this as your x2, x1, or maybe your x1, y1, that's what I did, or you use that point as your x2, y2, doesn't really matter. As long as now that you know you're dealing with these 2 points, then you will need to decide between those 2 points which one is which. Then when it comes to the gradient, you see now we change the points. It's now point A and point C. Then you start again to assign between those 2 points, which one is x1, x2. So now I will therefore say the gradient will be equals to my y2. I can use that -4 because it's the c value, minus, obviously it's going to be 4, divided by x2 being 5 minus 4. Then at the top you end up having -8 because it's -4 minus 4, and then at the bottom you end up having -1, and then the answer there becomes -8. And that will be your gradient. And then the middle point, you can start with the x value, middle point of what you see. Now we say AB, then you start again and say between point A and point B, which one will be x1, x2. So in terms of the x values, your x1 will be 4, being A, that you plus it inside the brackets, you have -4, and then you divide by 2, you end up having 0 at the top over 2, and then your x middle point becomes 0. And then again, in terms of your y values, you will have your 4 that you must plus it with inside the brackets, -1, and then you have 2, and then it gives you that 3 over 2. So how you represent your answer, it must be clear. You must say my x is 0 and then my y is 3 over 2. That's how you represent the coordinates of the midpoint. You don't just leave it as this and that. There is someone who got 100% on that one. They know themselves, but this is how you should do it. So let's see, guys. Did everything make sense? I hope I was not muted. Imagine after explaining all of that and I'm muted. I was going to just give up. Guys, did you all understand how you're supposed to work it out? I'm just concerned about those who did not submit because I'm not sure what you've done. So, guys, did you see what I've done?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Did you
Yes,
see a
sir.
mistake?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then it's fine. So, guys, sengabalega manje until we meet.